So hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video where today we're finally going to take a quick look at the Incarnon Paris Prime. So first things first, you can get the Incarnon adapter for the Paris Prime from the Steel Path version of the circuit game mode. Once you have the adapter, and the Paris of course, you can take them over to Cavallero in the Chrysolith to combine them. Though this also requires 20 Pathos Clamps, which you get from the Autoworm boss fight, 60 Rune Marrow, which you get in the Undercroft, and 60 Silpsilla, which is a plant that grows on the hillsides in the Paradox. This allows you to then evolve the Paris and it unlocks its Incarnon mode. You can build the Incarnon meter by headshotting enemies, and once you have any level of charge, you can press the secondary fire button to activate it. In this mode, weapon fires a horizontal energy blade that has infinite body punch through, and it does heat damage, and it comes with increased crit stats, though it unfortunately loses its headshot multiplier. You can build upwards of 20 shots for the Incarnon mode, and if you deactivate it early, you lose all remaining shots. Now, before you can take advantage of the evolutions and the buffs they provide, you first have to finish a solo mission with the Paris, then you have to kill 100 enemies with its Incarnon mode, and finally you have to kill 60 enemies while you're at least 4 meters above them. The evolutions here are actually quite cool. The first one is you choose between Deadly Pace, where you get flat damage, and then Fire Rate if your sprint speed is above 1.2, and Guardian's Might, which gives you flat damage and then significantly more flat damage if you have overshields. The second choice is between Ardent Trigger for 40% fire rate for 4 seconds on a punch-through hit, Marksman's Focus for negative zoom, and Swift Deliverance for projectile speed, and finally you'll be choosing between Vicious Promise, where if you're hitting an undamaged enemy, your crit chance and multiplier are increased by quite a bit, Elemental Balance for 60% status chance, and Striking Succession, where you get 15 extra flat damage for 3 seconds on striking an enemy, and it stacks up to 4 times. Now, after playing around with these for a little bit, I settled on Deadly Pace for the damage and then Fire Rate if I have enough sprint speed, Swift Deliverance for the projectile speed, which feels great, and then I actually ended up going with Elemental Balance for the boost to base status chance. Now, for the build, I ended up going with a hybrid of Viro and Heat, so we have Galvanized Chamber for multi-shot, Galvanized Scope for crit chance, and then Point Strike for additional crit chance. After that, we of course slap in Vital Sense for critical damage, and for our Arcane of choice, we're gonna go with Primary Merciless just for easy damage stacking and a bit of reload speed. Then for the Exilus, we're gonna run Besage Bal, which is a pirate-specific augment that heals you on status procs and gives you some extra status chance, which is followed up by Hammershot for crit damage and status, Hellfire for heat, and then Rime Rounds and Malignant Force for Viro and status. The reason I ended up going with this setup right here, and I just straight up discarded Hunter Munitions, is because we can get over 300% status chance with really good crit, especially in Incarnon mode. Also, I'm running a slightly modified build on my Inaros just so I get enough sprint speed for the extra fire rate. Now, the Simulacrum setup we're running here is level 150 in Steel Path, and we have 10 Butchers, mainly just to build up Merciless and to get a few headshots on them, and 10 Heavy Gunners. And as you can quite clearly see, they melt pretty fast. The important thing about this setup is that you still want to aim for headshots even though you don't get a headshot multiplier, just to keep Galvanized Scope active and stacked up. This is actually one of the few weapons where I would consider running Primary Deadhead, especially if you're not going to be doing super high level stuff so you can still kill enemies with the hit. Because the main issue with Deadhead on weapons that do damage over time, like the vast majority of weapons that we take into endgame, is that you need to get kills with the upfront damage for Deadhead to stack up. And that's difficult to do when the enemies get really beefy and they mostly die from your damage over time. Now, the reason why Deadhead could be good here is because you get back some of that headshot multiplier. I do believe it provides 30% headshot multiplier at maximum rank. And that's important because the Incarnon mode isn't incapable of having a headshot multiplier, it's just there is no multiplier on it, so you get no extra damage by default. But anyway, that's enough about Arcanes, let's talk about the weapon itself. I like it, and I like it a lot. The evolutions alone give the Paris Prime a much needed buff to where you can actually just take it into Steel Path and you'll be fine, even without the Incarnon mode. The Incarnon mode is just a nice cherry on top. It gives you a bit of extra clear potential because the energy blade is fairly wide, and the extra crit chance and damage combined with its heat-focused damage distribution are just fantastic for a damage over time build like this. Now, you can of course push more damage out of the Paris Prime if you take out Hellfire and you replace it with a faction mod, but I'm not the biggest fan of faction mods because I fight random factions at random times, so I don't constantly want to fiddle around with mods. So I settled for a less damaging build that still does more than enough damage to kill an Acolyte with just a handful of shots. And at the end of the day, I don't go past level 150 in Steel Path all that often, so I don't need that much damage. So overall, if you're interested in bows at all, I would highly recommend you pick this up. It is an absolutely fantastic upgrade to the Paris Prime, and I'm very happy to see what was once my favorite bow in the game many moons ago get some love. And as always guys, I thank you very much for watching. I would like to extend a special thank you to all the channel members. I hope you've enjoyed the video and found it helpful. If you'd like to support the channel, you can check out the memberships and stuff down below, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.